Welcome back to Global Lens. After signing a joint agreement calling for peace and stability in West Asia, US President Donald Trump makes a dramatic exit from the G7 summit, much before his scheduled departure, raising concerns around his stand on the ongoing Israel-Iran tensions. While the joint statement by the G7 nations called for de-escalation, it fell short of calling for a ceasefire. But that was not the only agenda of the summit. The much-anticipated FaceTime with Trump to seek some tariff relief did not materialize either, as the trade talks were slated for day 2, crushing hopes of countries like Japan, Mexico, Canada and other US trading partners that were expecting some headway in tariff talks. But day 2 is of great significance when it comes to India-Canada ties, as Prime Minister Modi and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney are set to meet at the sidelines of the summit. The meeting comes after a period of strained relations between two nations, which was triggered by Canada alleging India's involvement in the killing of a Sikh separatist in 2023, which India has strongly rejected. So what will the G7 Summit 2025 mean for India and Canada ties, and why India's presence is of utmost importance? To discuss this, we are joined by Professor John Kirton, Director of G7 Research Group from the University of Toronto. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor Kirton. Let me begin by asking you, do you think it was difficult to get Trump and the US on board on the wording of the statement on Iran and Israel tensions?
It was a challenge. There was an original draft of the statement on the Israeli-Iran war that had been initiated by the European members of the G7. But Donald Trump refused to sign on. So as day one yesterday unfolded, the outstanding question was whether there'd be a statement at all, and if so, whether Donald Trump would change his mind and sign, or whether the words in the statement would change so Donald Trump could sign on. It was the latter that happened. So he had a somewhat different statement. As you noted, no call for a ceasefire, which was a central element of the earlier draft. And more broadly, the statement we did see very much tilted towards Israel providing support for its core positions and very little support for the Iranian side.
Right.
Nonetheless, there was a statement. It was better than not having one at all, but we'll still have to wait if whether or not its three commitments have any impact on the course of the war.
You're right, because the statement said that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, a statement that the US has been maintaining for the last few days. I'd like to also ask you about Donald Trump's abrupt exit. Do you think his cutting short his Canada visit, the G7 visit, also somehow affects the G7 deliberations?
I think it was completely understandable that Donald Trump found it necessary to leave at the end of day one, a very full first day where he had participated very constructively in a very engaged manner in all of the sessions, and some of his bilaterals scheduled for that day. Certainly the host, Prime Minister Carney, fully understood why he felt he had to be back in Washington as Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, as well as a president, to have all his people and support with him to deal with the latest escalating phase of the Israeli attack on Iran in this case. And many other G7 leaders, former U.S. presidents, British prime ministers, even Canadian prime ministers have left G7 summits early for various reasons. So I think everybody was glad that President Trump came at all, even as the Israeli-Iran war was raging, and that he behaved so well. Right. And in the words of his press secretary, had a great day.
Okay. Having said that, what was the big worry apart from the Iran-Israel tensions that are escalating? What was it? Donald Trump's trade wars that were a big concern for the leaders? We've been reading statements on how the G6 urged Donald Trump to end these trade wars because it's making the whole global environment very uncertain.
Yeah, I think the real hang-up Donald Trump had with the original draft of the statement was that it did not strongly support many of the core Israeli positions. A more balanced approach, which the Europeans preferred, would have called on Israel to, well, cease fire right away. After all, it was Israel that initiated this phase of the conflict with its strike on Iran, killing many of the top Israeli or Iranian military commanders. And it appears that Netanyahu may have been trying to kill or will soon the the Iranian civilian leadership as a way to produce actual regime change in Iran in the same way that he saw Assad kicked out of Syria a short while ago. This, of course, I think is unrealistic. And Donald Trump's apparent sympathy for keeping open that possibility was not something that the other G7 leaders agreed with at all. But they did live with the statement that we've got.
India's presence at the G7. Do you think the meeting between Prime Minister Mark Carney and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will reset ties between India and Canada, which have gone through a very bad patch? Relations were at an all-time low over the killing of a Sikh terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in June 2023, and Canada has accused India of carrying out that assassination.
Yeah, I think it was a very welcome development that Mr. Carney invited Prime Minister Modi, and that Prime Minister Modi agreed to come, repeating the cadence of the past several summits. But in this case, of course, it does give those two leaders their first chance to sit down face to face and deepen the process they've already put in place to deal with this unfortunate bilateral issue and its disruptive effects. More broadly, foreign interference in ethnic communities and transnational repression was always a priority issue for the G7 summit and leaders as a whole. So I think we'll see a broader set of agreements saying no more foreign interference in one G7 country into another, but also because today is the day where we have all of the outreach partners. I expect that prohibition will extend to a broader group, including India and Canada together, but with a broader set of countries and powerful leaders there to politically enforce it. So good news all around, I think, with Mr. Modi here.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor John Kirton, for joining us on the program on Global Lens. Here's a quick look now at the other stories.